Hi, good evening, everyone. Oh, we'll try that one more time. We'll try that again. Good evening, everyone. Oh, I like that one. That was a little better. Let's get some more energy in here. Good evening, everyone. Excellent. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here to help us celebrate and honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am just so honored to have the opportunity to share this experience with you all on this day, and I'm even more honored to be able to call Montana and the land that we stand on home. I would like to begin by saying that the ancestral homeland of the Salish is the very ground that we stand on today. And my voice will not be the largest one here. Representing those voices of the past and present are Myrna Dumontier and Arlene Adams, citizens of the Salish tribe. I'd like to bring them forward to me.
This is my sister Arlene, and I am her older sister Myrna. We are 2 of 8 children, born of Lewis Adams and Nadine Pavin Adams of Arlene, Montana. Our grandparents were Lomi Romaine Adams and Susie Urban Adams. And our grandmother's mother was Louise Vanderberg, and her father was Hector Urban. My grandfather's parents were Ines Adams and Adele Keltamy Adams Vanderberg. That generation of people made the journey from the Bitterroot Valley to the homeland we now call the Flathead Indian Reservation. We were fortunate to be raised with much happiness and much strength and much perseverance in all that we have faced as Native people of this land. Because of similar principles and values shared by Martin Luther King, our people also share those same values of nonviolence and peaceful resistance, as you will hear me later comment. For now, I'd like to welcome you all to our homeland, our original and traditional homeland that we still call home. Our great-grandmother, Louise Vanderberg, was born just a little ways from here on the land that is now occupied by the University of Montana. My sister Arlene and I are both graduates of the University of Montana and have told our stories relentlessly across the campus and in any classroom that would let us. We've shared our history and our songs. And so it's a real honor to be here today, to continue to share and continue to embed our story and our history in this community, which is ours just as much as yours. As I walked in tonight and I looked at the pictures that were up, my first thought was that looked like an old community on our current homeland, maybe Elmo, maybe Hot Springs, maybe Dixon, maybe Ronan. But it also, since I'm considerably older than my little sister, brings back memories of when I was 12, 13, 14, watching television and seeing Martin Luther King lead the marches. And today, I want to thank Martin Luther King for giving us a push, a really big push, because up until that point, we were beaten down, and we couldn't find our voice, and we couldn't find our strength. And because of the love that he brought into the world and the way that he exemplified the kinds of values that we as Salish people held also. He gave us the courage to find our voice. And he gave us the courage to stand up. And we did, and we continue to do that. In the face of continued adversity, continued racism and hatred. And so we stand together as usual, and I'm so proud of my sister. She's strong, strong woman. And we are strong together and individually because of who our people were and how they taught us. I'd like to share more on the Salish perspective as we honor Martin Luther King. It's one that you're going to hear a few of his famous words, beginning with, "We are all God's children. We are all God's children. None better, none high, and none low." The connection between Martin Luther King and the cultural values of the Salish people, both historically and present day, is strong testimony to this fundamental truth. An important quote from Martin Luther King to consider before I go any further. He said, "Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will." It is with that thought in mind that I speak today, with the modest hope that we can deepen our understanding of all that has brought us here today. Perhaps the most famous Martin Luther King quote on Native Americans is as follows: "Our nation was born in genocide when it embraced the doctrine that the original American, the Indian, was an inferior race. Even before there were large numbers of Negroes on our shore, the scar of racial hatred had already disfigured colonial society. From the 16th century forward, blood flowed in battles over racial supremacy. We are perhaps the only nation that has tried as a matter of national policy to wipe out its indigenous population. Moreover, we elevated that tragic experience into a noble crusade. Indeed, even today, we have not permitted ourselves to reject or feel remorse for the shameful episodes. Our literature, our films, our drama, our folklore, all exalt it. Our children are still taught to respect the violence which reduced a red-skinned people to an earlier culture into a few fragmented groups, herded into impoverished reservations. The recent history of the land beneath our feet today is part what Martin Luther King was speaking out. Our great-grandmother, Artubia, born here on the bank of this river, was a Salish woman who with her people were told that they must leave the center of their homeland, the Bitterroot Valley, and move into the present-day Flathead Reservation. It was 1892, 37 years after the Hellgate Treaty of 1855. So, what were they doing living on the banks of the river? Practicing peaceful resistance, Martin Luther King style. Years before he was born. They were waiting on a promise made during the signing of the Hellgate Treaty that the United States would survey the lands to determine the very best place for the Bitterroot Salish, so they might not need to move at all. That was the first broken promise of the treaty, as no such determination was ever made. But there was no bloodshed. For 37 years, Chief Charlo and many of his people peacefully resisted the move to the Flathead Reservation. And only when it became apparent that the promise of a survey would not be kept and in keeping with their peaceful values would they eventually move. and leave this homeland. To better understand this chapter of our history, I would ask you to consider another Martin Luther King quote. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. Martin Luther King was a peaceful warrior of resistance against injustice and would have been at home in our Salish camp. One of the more famous Martin Luther King quotes is, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And I would like you to hold that thought while you consider another one. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. And in following with the Salish belief that the honor of one is the honor of all. So as we reflect on all that this day brings to us, I hope that we can be loving and not silent in the face of the new tragedy that faces missing and murdered Indigenous people across this nation, against the resurrection of racism and division and hatred as of the past. Let us again rise together in peace and love, just as Martin Luther King would want us to. We'd like to sing this song with you and for you, and we ask you to join us by standing and facing the west. Turn to the north.
loud.
Is this on? It's on. I just wanted to say that our circle of life is what you have just participated in and blessing in all four directions, the people that walk this land and all the creatures of the land. Also, in the circle of life, hatred and dissension and division doesn't have a place because the circle can't connect with those things. Only the love and the good things can make the circle connect. I just wanted to share that.
Good evening, Missoula. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight to this wonderful event and for participating in the march. My name is Lanata Peppers. My Indian name is Watched Over. I am a filmmaker, artist, and writer. I prefer to be called a storyteller. I am currently finishing my 4th degree at the University of Montana and about to jump into my PhD, Indigenous Activism through Media and Art. Yes, I am also a comedian. But I am first and foremost an Indigenous woman and an activist. And right now my Mother Earth, my sisters and brothers, my children are all being threatened by the fossil fuel industry. We are on the front lines of this fight because so many of us are still so close to our mother, with thousands of generations of knowledge that is above the arbitrary borders. Our views of the environment transcends how we see and how we feel, and our knowledge has been dismissed by Western science due to racism. This is a life and death battle for us. When we talk about violence against our Mother Earth, we're talking about the same cancer that brings violence to our people. Every time I go home, I have to worry that another sister will not be there, that another family member will be gone. So today we stand in solidarity against violence toward our mother, violence against our families, and so that our children will have an earth to thrive and grow. And so to start off tonight, I wanted to take 30 seconds to recognize the family looking for and who are mourning their loved ones tonight. Thank you all so much. I would like to start off this evening by introducing Pastor Terry Jimerson to do a welcome.
I have to just stand in for our new pastor who just came here, Pastor Kazanziki. He was not able to come here tonight. And so in his name, and I'd like to include all the other names of all the other pastors in this town, in saying this is a house of welcome. And all of our houses are houses of welcome. And that's not to leave anyone out in any way. And I feel like this is such a privilege to be in this sacred place that has been sacred forever. And that we have a right and a duty to continue this welcoming to all who come. Because we are all brothers and sisters under the same Spirit, God. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Jimerson. Next, we have a special performance. We have McKenna, who will perform one song. McKenna Alec is a 17-year-old high school senior at Hellgate High School. And she was born and raised here in Montana and is a former student of prominent Missoula jazz singer Eden Atwood. McKenna is a prolific songwriter and has won Zootown Idol, singing Stevie Wonder's Ma Chérie Amour. This will be McKenna's second year performing at the youth rally and MLK celebration that she has attended since middle school, and she will be accompanied by Asaf Adoni.
they to judge us? Simply our hair is long. Oh, you know we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. Picket lines and picket signs, don't punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me, oh, so you can see, oh, what's going on. Yeah, what is going
So tonight it is my great pleasure to introduce Rabbi Laurie Franklin, who currently serves Congregation Har Shalom, her spiritual home, and has lived in Missoula since 2002. She believes that Jewish learning, uplifting musical worship, and community advocacy and connectedness are precious paths for exploring Jewish life. At Har Shalom, she is dedicated to welcoming all corners to explore their Jewish journeys and their own way at their own pace. In addition, she is a board member of the Montana Human Rights Network, a participant in the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, clergy group, and Action Network, care team leaders. She's also a regular contributor to the Missoula Community Health column. In 2015, she was a co-founder of SALAM, Standing Against America's Muslims. Standing Alongside America's Muslims. And I didn't think that sounded right. Participates in Faith and Climate Action Montana. Along with the city of Missoula, she and Mayor Engen's office, Arts Missoula, and other Missoula and advocacy leaders, she organized the first Missoula Together event in fall 2019 to celebrate Missoula's diverse religious and cultural communities. She is excited and hopeful to be a part of the newly forming Missoula County Public School working group to foster inclusive, empowering environment for all students in our schools, which is wonderful. I myself have 6 children who will all be a part of that. Rabbi Laurie was ordained through the Alliance for Jewish Renewal, I'm sorry, my tongue is not working with me tonight, program. And she lived in Jerusalem for 1 academic year, where she studied at the Hard's Institute for Jewish Studies, the Conservative Yeshiva, and the Shalom Hartman Institute. She loves to grow vegetables, plant trees, play bagpipes, sing, write music, and cook. She is honored to speak today about the life and legacy of Dr. King.
Thanks for the warm welcome. I'm playing with the other microphone because this one's kind of hot, so let's see how it goes. But while I'm doing that, I want to put on my prayer shawl, because we're in church, you know? Yeah, I'm preaching to the choir. But the words that I want to offer you today, I'm really offering in the way of prayer. And, may it be God's will that our prayers are not in vain and they lead us to effective action. So little by little, Little by little, I hope we're getting somewhere. And I wanted to talk a little about that praying with your feet business. Frederick Douglass was an escaped slave who lived from 1818 to 1895. He became a leader in the American abolition movement. And he's quoted as saying, "I prayed for freedom for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs." Dr. Susanna Heschel shared this story about her father, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, whose picture has been rotating in our display here today. He was a Holocaust survivor, a religious philosopher, a teacher, author, practitioner of Judaism, and she wrote this. "When he came home from Selma in 1965, my father wrote, 'For many of us, that march from Selma to Montgomery was about protest and prayer. Legs are not lips, and walking is not kneeling. And yet our legs uttered songs. Even without words, our march was worship. I felt my legs were praying.'" So let's get to the heart of the matter. We are here today to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a lover of and a beloved of God, a preacher, an academic, an activist, an inspiration to millions. His rhetorical tools were sky high because they were grounded. They were grounded in faith, in deep thought, scholarship, and conviction. And if this were a perfunctory commemoration, we were gathering here to say an obligatory la la la, I wouldn't be comfortable standing here. I am here to issue a cry for hope, for solidarity, for action. And I am here to challenge us to change ourselves and change the world. And get the pictures going. Today, at this moment, with great urgency, the urgency of now, as Dr. King named it, we need to engage in a reckoning, both personal and communal. Who am I? Who are we? What do we stand for? How do we want our world to function? What do we want to bring into the world? And how can we create the change that we seek? And why me to deliver this message, a light-skinned Jewish female rabbi, she, her, hers, in her 7th decade, on a day that celebrates Dr. King? What can I bring to our collective awareness that might be more fittingly addressed by a POC, a person of color? And that's what I asked myself when I got the invitation from the MLK Day Committee. I don't want to second guess them. And while I'm on the subject, anyone who is in the MLK Day Committee, if you're in the House and you would like to stand up and receive our thanks, I would like to lead a little gratitude applause to you. Thank you for bringing us together for this. So now back to the question, what can I bring to this gathering? In the past few years, one of the answers to that question has been increasingly obvious. The worldwide rise in violence, of Jew hatred, attacks on synagogues, schools, businesses, individuals who display Jewishly associated dress or symbols. And on the national level, the White House offers apologetics for white nationalism directed at Jews and others, and by doing so encourages it. And we who are Jewish feel the erosion of the safety we felt in the decades following the Second World War. Suddenly our apparently successful assimilation might seem to be an aberration. It reactivates the internalized trauma of our Holocaust experience, during which so many of us lost family and friends of family, and the apocalyptic events of the Holocaust ripped a gaping hole in the transmission of our identity as a people and caused it to suffer profoundly. Centers of learning destroyed, scholars buried, communities shattered. This new white nationalism is an insidious ideology. According to the research of the Western State Center, Portland, Oregon, and notably the work of its executive director, Eric Ward, the Jew has a special place in the hierarchy of hate. White nationalists posit that the Jews are dangerous schemers. Now that's a historically old negative characterization. Here's the new stuff. Jews support, excuse me for the popping peas here, Jews support and enable the rise of people of color. Allegedly, it's our fault, the fault of the Jews, that civil rights movement won so many advances because, of course, an inferior people couldn't do it by themselves. That's a heck of an idea. And so in this distorted worldview, we Jews are inextricably linked with aiding and abetting the cause of people of color and undermining the white nationalist goal of a white ethno-state which is free of Jews and free of people of color. And moreover, the white nationalist movement is violent by nature, advocating violent revolution, violent eradication of Jews and people of color, also directing violence towards women and LGBTIQ, and we're still targeting vulnerable youth and young adults, exploiting their isolation and encouraging their sense of victimhood to radicalize them as partners in hate. This is no joke. And we have seen an unprecedented rise in this movement since the national election of 2016. Today, thank God, at the Richmond State House in Virginia, there was no violence. Thank God. Nonetheless, extremist groups focused on this as a tool for advancing their concept of a violent revolution. And there is Jew hatred on the left, too. It's a trend on campuses and in town to conflate Israel policy and Jew hatred to delegitimize the state of Israel. Now, I am a strong Zionist who rejects the discriminatory, oppressive policies of the current Israeli government and supports Palestinian rights, much in the same way as I love my country, the United States of America, and reject the current administration's policies on immigration, mass incarceration, and voting rights. Yes, it's possible to criticize my country and to love it. Yes, it's possible to criticize Israel and love it. Please, dear friends, if this is something you engage in, please stop Israel bashing. Please consider the complexities of the Israel-Palestine situation and don't succumb to oversimplification of black and white thinking. There's a big problem there to solve, yes. And to my Christian colleagues, my dear, dear friends, I beg of you, cease elevating as worthy of worship parts of the Synoptic Gospels that put down the Jewish religion. You don't have to affirm your deep faith by putting down the faith of another. Those texts may be part of the Holy Christian Bible, but let's study them in context. Not take them as literal prescriptions worthy of devotion. It damages our interfaith relationships, and I need to say this out loud. Instead, let's walk our talk. Let's love each other, not with the mawkish, sentimental love, but with the robust love of listening to each other, of dialogue and understanding, born of seeing each other as Dr. King did. Holy reflections of the divine, all of you. Let us consecrate relationship. Let's have compassion for each other, knowing that we will often disagree. Let's do the hard work of listening to and learning from each other. We owe that to each other as allies in the pursuit of justice. Further, Dr. King spoke eloquently and powerfully about the necessity of compassion for for those we call our enemies. It is as fundamental to my faith as it was to Dr. King's that we are created in the image of God. All of us, holy vibrations. And in that role, I know we must embrace love. We can be impatient, as Dr. King was, but we must not hate those we might term as haters. Hatred is the opposite of holiness. Violent militancy is soul poison. Anger is toxin. Nonviolent resistance is not merely a political strategy. It is a spiritual practice born of loving regard. And I am committed to look at both my ally and my enemy and see them as a reflection of the divine, never losing compassion, and maybe, if I'm lucky, even growing it. So I want to share with you that Judaism has a practice in it called tochecha. Tochecha. It's offering correction, and it's based on Leviticus chapter 19, verses 17 and 18. And so I'm going to read to you a little bit. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavcha. Don't hate your brother in your heart. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha v'lo tisa alav chita. You shall surely offer correction to your kinsman, and you will not let them sin. You will not let them bear sin. So, in other words, don't be complicit in unethical behaviors by observing them and saying nothing. And Hebrew biblical interpretation looks very hard at what verse lies next to another. The very next verse says, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. Message? When you give correction, you've got to do it out of love. You have to do it with regard and gentleness. That is one of the hardest things to do when your first response might be anger. So I hope you'll take my comments about Israel bashing and the Gospels with a grain of tochecha. This is out of loving regard for my dear, dear friends and allies in this room. And when we see injustice in the world, let us step in with urgency to offer that correction. Hocheach tochiach, you shall surely rebuke. When voting rights are stripped of power by lack of enforcement, gerrymandering, discriminatory ID requirements, and purging of voter rolls, let's say, you shall rebuke. When asylum-seeking families are separated at the border, let us say, you shall rebuke. When young men of color are profiled and killed by law enforcement, you shall rebuke. When people of color are labeled and treated as criminals, you shall rebuke. When law enforcement has to bear the burden of inadequate social and economic policy, you shall rebuke. When people can't afford medical care, medicines, or good food, you shall rebuke. When the disappearance of Native women and girls is not investigated, you shall rebuke. When all Muslims are branded as terrorists, when people of color are differentially excluded from good educations, jobs, safe and healthy places to live, when children and young adults are actively recruited to white nationalist movements, when the consequences of climate change and pollution fall differentially on the economically disadvantaged, and Dr. King understood this to be a problem even before the present environmental movement got rolling, you shall rebuke. When verifiable, rational gun control is not pursued by our elected officials in the face of violent reoccurrences in our public squares, when LGBTI people are demonized and attacked, when women are held to a different standard for leadership and accomplishment and are relegated to second-tier status, and this, of course, is a partial list. We have to add our voices, add our corrections, and more importantly, we have to take action. For example, if you're interested in voting rights erosion, there's going to be a meeting tomorrow evening at the Missoula Public Library sponsored by the League of Women Voters at 7 p.m. about the ideas and issues for 2020. That's a place to start. There's Empower Montana, Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, the YWCA, the Missoula Urban Indian Center, Partnership Health, Welcome Home, Missoula Idea for Racial Justice, United Way 211, an International Rescue Committee, Soft Landing Missoula, the American Civil Liberties Union, the Montana Racial Equity Project, Faith and Climate Action Montana, and SALAM. These are just a few, and I've left some out, of our local and statewide organizations that provide direct aid and practice active advocacy to dismantle the cycles of oppression that limit access to basic needs, undermine our moral vitality, our soul's freedom, our ability to love and thrive and bring good into the world. Yes, we have crossed the Sea of Reeds, but we still wander in the wilderness. The path towards justice is frustratingly indirect. My tradition teaches that we eternally strive to leave the bondage of the narrow places, our personal and communal Egypts. How much more so now, when we face the violence of unleashed bigotry. I hear the voice of Rabbi Tarfon, who lived in Second Temple times, 6th century BCE, speaking to me from the text of Pirkei Avot, a wisdom literature of her ancestors. And he said this, Lo Alecha hamelacha ligmor. It's not on you to finish this holy work. V'lo ata vein chorin levatel mimena. But you are not free to do nothing. We can't expect to complete this work, but we have to be in it. And in his heartbreakingly prophetic last public sermon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said he had been to the mountaintop, like Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, and he had seen the promised land. He knew his people would get there, with or without him. He wasn't worried. He feared no man. So, the challenge to us, let us be Joshua to Dr. King's Moses. Take up our cause with purpose, unite in faith that we will continue to walk together toward the promised land, and that freedom and justice are our inheritance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Very, very powerful words. I would like to present Maury Pierce tonight for the Missoula Martin Luther King Day History and Recognition.
So this is always an issue with me. I guess this thing doesn't go up any higher than. Does it? Go up higher? No, I gotta read. Okay. No. Okay. And this isn't even down. So where's McKenna? Where you at? Thank you. That was so. It was so beautiful. That song was written about 29 years ago, and it still rings true today. Every single word, every stanza rings true today. So those of you who haven't seen that Marvin Gaye What's Going On album, I challenge you to take a look at it, old and young alike. It's pretty prophetic. Can we turn this up a little bit, please? No, I'm good. No, that's okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
John said he can't.
Okay, I'm yelling. I'm a big guy, so I generally talk pretty softly and stuff. So If again you can't hear me in the back as I go through this, just raise your hand and I'll take note of that and do what I do. Okay. Tonight, one of the things that is evident that we're talking about a call to action, and we're also talking about history. And understanding that history of the civil rights movement and where we are today is critically important in terms of where we go from here. I just said the other day, and I'll say it again today, that those things call us to action. Maya Angelou had said, when we know better, we're obligated to do better. And that's an understanding of what that history is about. So 15 years after his assassination on April 4th in '68, Congress passed a bill recognizing Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a national holiday. In Montana, the MLK holiday was not recognized until 9 years later in 1992. This was due in great part to the efforts of University of Montana professor of history and state legislator Harry Fritz. Harry carried a bill in the '91 legislature which supported the commemoration of the holiday. The bill faced an uphill battle in the state legislature. Articles in both the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune shine light on Montana as one of the 3 states at the time which had not adopted the holiday. There were several alternative proposals offered by an ad hoc legislative committee that was convened. One bill would establish an annual King Day on the 3rd Monday in January and would eliminate a floating holiday then called Heritage Day, which was celebrated in different ways in various parts of the state. Freshman Republican State Senator Jerry Noble of Great Falls, who opposed the bill on grounds that King associated with a great many communists, introduced a bill to create a holiday honoring Nez Perce Native American Chief Joseph instead of King. Noble is quoted as saying, "The thinking is to recognize a racial minority in Montana, and that's our minority. If Montana had a King holiday, I would never close Jerry Noble tires," referring to his Great Falls business. To Noble's surprise, Montana's 3 American Indian legislators hotly rejected his plan. Democratic State Representative Angela Russell, a Crow Indian who was with King on his Alabama march from Selma to Montgomery in 1965 when she was 21, said Noble was engaging in diversionary tactics and stated Montana's embrace of Martin Luther King Jr. Day would send a message to the nation that we will not tolerate racism. King was the power behind the whole civil rights movement in this country, she said. A holiday in his name would be a wonderful symbol and focus for the whole civil rights issue in Montana. Caught between choosing to honor the civil rights leader or a famous Indian, American Indian legislators offered a counterproposal. "We choose both," said Democratic State Senator Bill Yellowtail, who represented the Crow and Northern Cheyenne reservations. An Indian-sponsored amendment would rename Noble's proposed Chief Joseph holiday as Native American Day, replacing Columbus Day. Yellowtail said Columbus, and I quote, "was among other things a scoundrel and a pillager, and Columbus Day has always been a sore point with Native Americans." Sorry, Yellowtail said that. Noble said he wouldn't take a stand on the amendment pending a committee hearing, and stating, apparently the Native Americans have a problem with Columbus. And he further stated, "That's something that I was never aware of." King holiday supporters held church services, public rallies, school programs, petition campaigns, and marches throughout the state, and testified en masse at a joint Senate legislative hearing held, appropriately enough, on January 21st. After much deliberation, Fritz's bill passed, and Montana formally first recognized the King holiday in 1992. Prior to the holiday's passage in 1991, the incoming University of Montana president, George Dennison, ordered a committee formed to celebrate King's legacy. That committee was chaired by Ray Carlisle. Ray, where you at, Ray? This inaugural event included the UN Black Student Union. Are members of the BSU here tonight too? A couple. Valerie, where you at? Black Studies Program Chair Ulysses Doss and an invited list of campus personnel. Two features of this initial celebration were a dinner and a candlelight vigil that were held in the Oval. In '94, converted to a semester system, which eventually meant students were on break and didn't return until after the holiday. The campus MLK committee had folks from the community as well, and those community members decided to plan activities to honor Dr. King on the actual day of the holiday. The Missoula Community Martin Luther King Holiday Committee was formed at this time. The first community celebration was held at First Methodist Church. Key among those original members were Betty Wing. Is Betty here tonight? Is Betty? Ralph Stone. Is Ralph here? Let's applaud for Ralph anyway. George Price. I know George is here somewhere. And folks from the Jeanette Rankin Peace Center, and I know Carol is here representing that. Where are you at, Carol? There she is. So committee members have come and gone over the years, but their dedication to the principles of inclusion, diversity, and equity remains steadfast. Today, we still exist as a grassroots entity and continue to interface with the Holiday Committee, which I should say that now that we're back on a different system, that students are here during the actual holiday, which is wonderful. And it's the first time in about 20 years that's happened. So thank you to the University of Montana as well, too. We're equally proud and thankful for the organizational structure and support of the folks at Empower Montana. Where are my Empower Montana people at? Stand up. So lastly, I'd just like to invite everyone that's been a volunteer, that's been associated with this MLK Holiday Committee since 1901 to stand up and be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie Pierce. Next, we have the University Congregational Church Choir, directed by Dr. Christopher Hahn. Christopher Hahn maintains a multifaceted career as a pianist, conductor, adjudicator, clinician, and author, and he's performed at many places, including Carnegie Hall. Please welcome with me the UCC Choir.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. We had the invitation last year to do this, and it was a real honor. We at University Congregational Church believe in inclusivity for all. We're a place for anybody on your life's journey. We are welcome. You are welcome with us. We're here to sing Overflowing, which I think is a piece very much in the spirit of Dr. King had in mind. I'd like to also introduce our wonderful pianist, Alice Williams, and also Ron Wilcott on bass, and our phenomenal soloist tonight, Robin Kendall. Thank you.
Let's give them one more round of applause. So next I want to introduce Asaf Adani as he reads the Pass the Hat script and also performs as we pass the hat.
In addition to the beautiful piano playing, I will read to you about Pass the Hat and about this celebration a little bit. This year marks, my name's Amanda Miller Perry, by the way, just so we can get to know each other as I'm reading to you. This year marks the 28th year that Missoula has had a community celebration of Martin Luther King Day. Like this event tonight, a committee of volunteers, like Murray was referring to earlier this evening, Missoula citizens just like you plan and carry out events with speakers, music, and the beautiful art and essays submitted by area public school students. The large number of people who come to this event sends an important message to others in Montana and beyond that our community believes in the importance of equal justice, human rights, and other principles that comprise the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The committee is grateful for many local and area businesses that contribute to this annual event. A list of sponsors can be found in your program, and we are grateful for the volunteers who helped with all the logistics. We do, however, need to raise some funds for the things we do that cost actual money, like printing those beautiful programs and honorariums for our speakers and performers, whom we appreciate very, very much. So if you can this year, the MLK Day Planning Committee asks you to be extra generous with your contribution. Of course, any contribution you can make to help make this event possible is deeply appreciated. And volunteers are passing the hat now, or baskets, as the case may be. The most important gift you've given is your attendance tonight. So whether you can contribute or not, thank you so much for helping Missoula commemorate this important holiday with your presence here. Thank you very much.
So I want to make a call for all the youth art and essay contest winners to come up. And while that is happening, I also want to announce that Lori Nielsen Cattle and Spencer Check, sorry if I will be honoring the winners of the youth art and essay contest tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Lonnie Nielsen Cattell, and I am the Youth Development Coordinator at Empower Montana, and with me are two of our Youth Advisory Council members, Sylvie Tower and James Bivens. We have the great honor of presenting the awards for this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Art and Essay Contest. This year, the Missoulian newspaper and the MLK committee sponsored our annual art and essay contest for youth to showcase their creativity and thoughts in response to quotes from Dr. King. The artwork and essays of the contest winners have been published in yesterday's copy of the Missoulian, and we encourage you all to seek some of those out and look at them because they are wonderful and beautiful. So with that, here are our Youth Advisory Council members.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Tower, and I go to Sentinel High School. This year, we had the opportunity to highlight 2 of Dr. King's quotes. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice, and darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. It was inspiring and humbling to see submissions from around the state contribute to the memory of Dr. King. Although the council could only pick a limited number of awards, we want to honor and recognize all who entered this contest. The council enjoys witnessing the talent and vision of our community's young people come to life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm James, and I go to Big Sky High School. For the evening, we'll be announcing the winners for the art contest first. Names will be announced in the order of 3rd place, 2nd place, and finally 1st place winners. We ask the winners to come up to stage and be recognized, and directly in front of me, a team will work to get you your awards. When you receive your award, please line up and stay on stage until all winners are announced.
Our 3rd place art winners are for the K through 2nd grade category, Hazel Laus, and for the 3rd through 5th grade category, Sky Tabish Rose.
For the 6th through 8th grade category, Megan Willis.
Our 2nd place art winners are, for the K through 2nd grade category, Golden Loosely, and for our 3rd through 5th grade category, Sky Kozlowitz.
For 6th through 8th grade category, Camila Burnich.
And our 1st place art winners this year are for the K through 2nd grade category, Jordan Spar, and for the 3rd through 5th grade category, Kieran Cooney.
For the 6th through 8th grade category, Cecilia Kate Knight, and for the 9th through 12th grade category, Larika Green. Congratulations to all the winners. You guys may take your seats now.
Now we will welcome to the stage our 3rd and 2nd place winners of the essay contest. Then we will invite our 1st place winners to join us at the microphone to read their winning piece.
Our 3rd place winners are for the K through 2nd grade category, Jasper Stone Cipher, and for the 3rd through 5th grade category, Russell Stone Cipher.
For the 6th through 8th grade category, Jane Kulina, and for the 9th through 12th grade category, Adriana O'Connor.
Now let us welcome our 2nd place winners. K through 2nd grade category, Mason Thomas Sweet, and for our 3rd through 5th grade category, Mai McKelvey Pham.
In the 6th through 8th grade category, Lark, and in the 9th through 12th grade category, Grace Sutherland. And now we will welcome our first place winners reading their winning essay, K through second grade winner Chance Sweeney. This poem is called The Stars. Love is hearts, love is red fire, love is good like butterflies. Hate is bad, hate is like vegetables, especially spinach. Darkness is like annoying flies, they always go on my food. Darkness is like cold water, it makes me shiver. Light is like yellow cats, they always purr when I'm around them. Love is like a night, light is happy.
Next, 3rd through 5th grade winner, Benjamin Lewis Reed. During Martin Luther King's life, he experienced hatred, but he devoted his life to combating darkness in a peaceful way. In the Jim Crow South, black people couldn't drink from the same fountains as whites, couldn't use the same bathrooms as whites, and couldn't eat in the same restaurants as whites. Black people had to sit in the back of the bus and give up their seats for white people. Black children couldn't go to the same schools as white children. Black baseball players couldn't play in the major leagues with the white baseball players. The KKK burned crosses and bombed black people's churches and homes. When black people had protests, police beat them with sticks, unleashed attack dogs on them, and blasted fire hoses at them. Learning about world history, I've noticed a lot of fighting and bloodshed, and not enough kindness and acceptance. Throughout history, violence was met with more violence. Leaders like Bloody Mary, Robespierre, Caesar, Hitler, and Stalin slaughtered, massacred, and murdered people. Martin Luther King Jr. had a very different kind of leader. He changed people's minds about black people and Jim Crow laws because he had honor. He inspired others to fight darkness with light. He preached, we must meet hate with love. He shared his dream with little black children, would join hands, and with little white children like brothers and sisters. He prayed for a better world, marched for freedom, and sang, "We shall overcome."
Okay, and our 6th through 8th grade winner, Amelie Etter.
Circle. A circle is a perfect arc revolving around a center so precise it could only be created by Mother Nature. The universe is a vast expanse, tiptoeing around a center so undefined it is almost non-existent. The center of the universe is an uncharted element. If it is a dazzling and sizzling ball of flame, or an eerie and damp apocalypse, we will never know. That is a great thing about the universe. We will never know. But I have a hunch that the center of the universe is a fragment of pure, shining justice. The other pieces are scattered around the cosmos. This fragment of justice feels like a lively and radiant star, lighting up the unknown secrets of the galaxies. But we have not found justice, and I don't think we're going to find it anytime soon. So until we do, we must try our hardest to treat each human, organism, life force like a glittering gem underneath all of this hate and injustice. We will not judge them no matter their religion, color, sexuality, political opinions, or their body. We will not judge them on what only is outside. So remember, justice has not been found, but we will just keep trying, reaching, working towards this uncharted universe of peace, hope, and most importantly, justice.
And finally, our 9th through 12th grade winner, Dame Devin Panzatanga. Devin was not able to make it tonight, so I will be reading his essay, and then we will invite our 2nd place winner, Grace Sutherland, to read her piece as well. He wrote a poem from the quote, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. The hate you give to others is the hate that is given back to you. The love you give others is the love that is given back to you. Those days you feel angry at the world, you begin to despise the day and loathe the weather. When you start to realize that this isn't going to make anything better, so you begin to change your mindset. You connect with the past, reflect on the mistakes, never forget because you learn from them. Set goals from the future, make a plan. One day you'll be there, be patient. You are at peace, the euphoric thought of being home, where you can be yourself sparks. You are at home, your dreams came true."
We have a printout if you want the printout version. Got it, okay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Grace Sutherland. My Indian name is Standing Sweetgrass Thunderbird Woman. I come from the Cree Nation of the Beardy's Reserve in Saskatchewan, Canada. My mother is Jennifer Stiffarm, Red Elk Woman. She comes from the Ojibwe and Gros Ventre people. My grandmother is Cynthia LeCount, leading Elk Woman of the Ojibwe Nation. My grandfather is Bud LeCount, also of the Ojibwe Nation. To all the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, you are beautiful, you are loved beyond compare. You are deeply missed. I am truly sorry for all the awful things that have happened to you. You were taken too early. Your purpose in life was not yet fulfilled. Your spirit walks this earth, wandering, trying to find your home, trying to find your people. You walk this earth trying to find your peace, trying to tell your story, and trying to get back to the Creator and your ancestors. Sincerely, everyone who loves you.
Congratulations to all contest winners, and thank you to all who participated.
I always love seeing youth coming up and presenting. I think it's so important to see them. So let's give them another round of applause. And congratulations to all of the art and contest winners. I just want to give a quick thanks to all of our sponsors, including Walla Walla University, Emmaus Campus Industry, Missoula Urban Indian Health Center, the University of Montana, the Missoulian, Missoula's Idea for Racial Justice, YWCA, Holy Spirit Episcopal Church, the Roxy Theater, AmeriCorps Vista, Emmanuel Lutheran Church, the Good Food Store, Missoula's Community Media Resource, Nuts Hens in honor of Rexine Hens, and Morning Birds Bakery. If I've forgotten anyone, please excuse me. I also want to announce that we have a community dinner and social happening right next door. And I want to give appreciation to our cooks, Michaeline and friends. Missoulian, I'm sorry, and friends. Now we will have Asaph play us a recessional as we move on to that dinner and social, as I said, right next door.